Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Yeah, Prashanti Mataji, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Sri Prabhupada and Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtakim. Today we are reading Canto 4, Chapter 9. Dhruva Maharaj returns home. Text 22 to 33. Text 22. After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. Text 23. The Lord continued, sometime in the future, your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother Surichi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him in the forest, but she will be devoured by the forest fire. Text 24. The Lord continued, I am the heart of all sacrifices. You will be able to perform many great sacrifices and also give great charities. In this way, you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this life, and at the time of your death, you will be able to remember me. Text 25. The personality of Godhead continued, my dear Dhruva, after your material life in this body, you will go to my planet, which is always offered obeisances by the residents of all other planetary systems. It is situated above the planets of the 7 rishis, and having gone there, you will never have to come back again to this material world. Text 26. The great sage Maitreya said, after being worshipped and honored by the boy Dhruva Maharaj, and after offering him his abode, Lord Vishnu on the back of Garuda returned to his abode as Dhruva Maharaja looked on. Text 27. Despite having achieved the desired result of his determination by worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj was not very pleased. Thus, he returned to his home. Text 28. Sri Vidura inquired, my dear Brahmana, the abode of the Lord is very difficult to attain. It can be attained only by pure devotional service, which alone pleases the most affectionate, merciful Lord. Dhruva Maharaj achieved this position even in one life, and he was not wise and conscientious. Why then was he not very pleased? Text 29. Maitreya answered, Dhruva Maharaja's heart, which was pierced by the arrows of the harsh words of his stepmother, was greatly aggrieved, and thus when he fixed upon his goal of life, he did not forget his misbehavior. He did not demand actual liberation from this material world, but at the end of his devotional service, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared before him, he was simply ashamed of the material demands he had in his mind. Text 30. Dhruva Maharaj thought to himself, to endeavor to be situated in the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord is not an ordinary task, because even the great brahmacharis headed by Sananda, who practiced Ashtanga Yoga in trance, attained the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet only after many, many births. Within 6 months, I achieved the same result, yet, due to my thinking differently from the Lord, I fell down from my position. Text 31. Alas, just look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approach the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death, but still, out of my foolishness, I prayed for things which are perishable. Text 32. Since all the demigods who are situated in the higher planetary systems will have to come down again, they are all envious of my being elevated to Vaikuntha Loka by devotional service. These intolerant demigods have dissipated my intelligence, and only for this reason could I not accept the genuine benediction of the instructions of sage Narada. Text 33. Dhruva Maharaj lamented, I was under the influence of the illusory energy, being ignorant of the actual facts. I was sleeping on her lap. Under a vision of duality, I saw my brother as my enemy, and falsely I lamented within my heart, thinking, they are my enemies. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prashant Mande. Yeah, Chaitanya Prabhu, whenever you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji.
Sure, I'll share my screen.
Sure.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prasanthi Mataji, for reading today. And thank you, devotees, for your association. For my own purification and to serve all the assembled Vaishnavas, I'll be discussing something from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9. I'll start by offering my prayers. Om Akyantimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vam karoti vachalam pangam langayate kirim yat kripatam ham vande shinguratin taranam. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, starting from text 23 onwards. So in this particular chapter, just to give a brief overview, we have read how the dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu is being described. And after talking about the three daughters of Swayambhuva Manu, we're now entering into the discussion about his two sons. And specifically, we start off with his first son, Maharaj Uttanapat. And this discussion moves on towards his two sons, the two princes, Prince Uttama and Prince Dhruva, and how Dhruva Maharaj, after being insulted by his stepmother, goes into the forest and under the guidance of Narad Muni, he does very severe tapasya. And in that process, he finally achieves darshan of the Lord. And this we have seen recently how Dhruva Maharaj was glorifying the Lord, and now the Lord is started beginning to offer him benedictions. So where we continue our discussion today. So in text 23, it is described the first benediction that Lord offers Dhruva Maharaj in response to the material desire that he had when he initiated his tapasya. The Lord mentions to Dhruva Maharaj that his brother Uttama will be killed when he goes for hunting in the near future. As also his stepmother, Mother Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son Uttama, to whom she was so attached, she will go out into the forest and then will be consumed by the forest fire and lose her life. So in the purport to this shloka, Srila Prabhupada describes that we should be very, very careful of Vaishnava Aparadha. In this Canto 4, we've seen so many different examples of offense to a Vaishnava. And Prabhupada mentions that the fate that was going to happen to Mother Suruchi and Prince Uttama was because they had harbored an envious attitude towards Dhruva Maharaj. Now, one can think that when Mother Suruchi offended Dhruva Maharaj, he was just a 5-year-old boy. But we have to be careful because we don't know if one is an advanced devotee or not just by looking at somebody's age. That's why Prabhupada cautions that whenever we deal with anybody, not just even a devotee, because everybody is potentially a future devotee, we should be very careful not to insult anybody. Prabhupada goes on to describe that in the 8 stanzas of the Mangalarti that we pray every day, is described Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasado. That by pleasing the spiritual master, we can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, if we displease the spiritual master, if we offend the spiritual master by not following his instructions, then Prabhupada describes that there is really no words to describe where we will end up if we commit this offense. And that is why it is very, very careful that we do not insult anybody or to speak of great devotees. In his commentary, Gurujan Prabhu had mentioned that in the Vishnu Puran, actually there was mention of a brief history of Dhruva Maharaj. That Dhruva Maharaj was a Brahmana in his previous life who used to worship Lord Vishnu. And in that process, he had befriended a prince who was enjoying a lot of material wealth. And being attracted to that Brahman boy, desired to lead a princely life. And hence in his next birth, he was born as Dhruva Maharaj. So a lot of the interactions that happen between Prince Uttama, Mother Shuruchi, and Dhruva Maharaj were implications from their previous impressions that they had. Moving to text 24. Now, after assuring Dhruva Maharaj in text 23 that his revenge, one of the reasons he had come to the forest was to seek revenge, that revenge would be fulfilled, Lord offers him another benediction, that I am the heart of all sacrifices, that through your lifetime, you will be able to perform many, many great sacrifices. And in this way, you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness. Now, that can be a problem for a devotee, because we understand that actually factually in this material world there is no true happiness, true enjoyment. But obviously, when the blessing comes from the Lord wants the best for his devotee, and the blessings comes with a caveat that he mentions that at the time of your death, you will be able to remember me. And that's the point Prabhupada stresses on this purpose. Prabhupada quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.6. There's a wonderful shloka where Sukadev Goswami is responding to Parikshit Maharaj's questions about what is the duty of a householder during living and what is the duty of somebody at the end of life. And in response to that question, Sukadev Goswami responds to Parikshit Maharaj saying, Etat Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishtaya Janma Labha Param Pumsham Ante Narayana Smriti. So what's most important for us at the time of dying is to be able to remember Lord Narayan, Vishnu or Krishna. Ante Narayan Smriti. And that's what Prabhupada quotes in this particular purport. Prabhupada also mentions that we actually may have this plan to have material enjoyment, and at the end we will be able to remember Krishna, but that plan has many fallacies, because through this course of living in this material world, there is danger and there's possibility that we may forget Krishna and be engrossed in something that we may not be able to remember him at the time of death, just as what happened to Bharat Maharaj after he was attached to the deer. So, there are many sort of societies in this world, there are many organizations who promote how you can live better, how you can live more healthy. They teach you about the art of living. But truly speaking, Krishna consciousness is the art of dying. The art where we remember, where we train our consciousness each day by trying to remember Krishna, at least by chanting 16 rounds every day, and in remembering Krishna in each and every activity, that when the moment will come for us to leave this material body, we will be able to remember Krishna. And that is the art of dying. Prabhupada also goes on to mention that the Lord blessed Dhruva Maharaj that he'll be able to perform many, many wonderful sacrifices. And Prabhupada goes on to describe in the purport that the real sacrifice in the age of Kali is the Sankirtan Yajna. One may think, how can chanting be a sacrifice? But if you think about it, when we sit down to chant, when we take our japamala in our hands and we commit to Krishna, that Krishna, this next 1.5 to 2 hours is yours. I'm your servant. I'm going to remember you. I'm going to try my best. Please be mine. Please let me engage in your loving devotional service. So when we take up this sacrifice, we are sacrificing time. We are sacrificing our urge to speak because we love to gossip. We're sacrificing our urge to hear because we want to hear what's going on in the world, what's going on in the news. We're sacrificing our time that we may be spending with our other material attachments, including family and other friends. So we are sacrificing a lot when we sit down to chant. And that is why, and that is the best kind of sacrifice that is advised in the age of Kali. Now, usually, Prabhupada describes that if any sacrifice, a lot of charity is given. However, Prabhupada says in the purport that usually in this age of Kali, most people, do not have enough money to distribute. I remember Gaurang Prabhu had shared this joke that in the previous ages, people used to distribute just half of their income and give it away to Lord and devotional service. But then as the ages started deteriorating, people came up with a different formula. They made a line, and then they would throw all the money they earned up in the air, and whatever fell on one side of the line, they would keep, the other side they would distribute. After the line became a circle, and whatever stayed inside the circle, when they threw up the money in the air, whatever would fall down in the circle, they would keep, and whatever would fall outside, they would give to the Lord's devotional service. And as the age deteriorated, the circle kept getting bigger and bigger, so less proportion was going to devotional service. And now in Kali Yuga, the situation is there is no circle, there is no line. People just throw up the money in the air and they say, God, if you want anything, you can catch it. Whatever will fall to the ground, I will keep it. So there's lack of charity and such in this world. But Prabhupada mentioned the best kind of charity that we can do as part of a Sankirtan Yajna is distributing Krishna Prasad. That, which we engage in our devotional service to the temple. In text 25 is described. Now, the third, another benediction that the Lord is offering to Dhruva Maharaj. So he's assured him that the revenge will be taken. He's assured him that he'll go on to live a wonderful material life and achieve a lot of material wealth through the process of sacrifices, and he'll be able to come back to Godhead. And in text 25, the Lord that you leave this material body, you will be given a planet which is offered obeisances by the residents of all other planetary systems. In the shloka, it is said, Sarva Loka Namaskritam. All other planets would be offering obeisances to the Dhruva Loka. This is situated above the planets of the 7 rishis, and you will never have to come back again to this material world. So this particular planet, even though located in the material realm, is spiritual. Prabhupada also mentions a word from the shloka that's important is called na avartate, means that that particular planet, one goes there, doesn't have to come back. Because one of the reasons Dhruva Maharaj had gone to do this tapasya in the forest was he wanted a kingdom greater than his father, Maharaj Uttanapad, greater than his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, and then greater than his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. So the Lord was also wondering, what can I give to this boy that's greater than the kingdom of Lord Brahma, that is this material universe? So what he awarded to him was something that is in the material realm, but is still spiritual, and that is Dhruva Loka or pole star. And it is mentioned that when we recollect that any time the devatas are in misery, they approach Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma, along with the devatas, he goes into the banks, the beach of the milk ocean, the Shir Sagar, and there is the Shweta Dweep where the Lord is residing. So they cannot approach him directly, but they can only approach the boundary of that loka, and that particular loka was being awarded by the Lord to Dhruva Maharaj. So in this process, the Lord offered him 3 benedictions to fulfill the 3 desires that Dhruva Maharaj had. In text 26, now it's just described, after offering him this benediction and receiving worship and honor from Dhruva Maharaj, the Lord returns back to his home. Now, text 27, now there's an interesting twist that comes. Despite having achieved the desired result of his determination by worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, Dhruv Maharaj was not very pleased. Thus, he returned to his home. So now there's a conundrum because we believe that seeing the Lord, having darshan of the Lord, especially in person, and receiving all these benedictions from him would be achieving the perfection of life. A devotee would be ecstatic if he had this opportunity. But how come Dhruv Maharaj was not able to experience this? Prabhupada explains in the purport, and we're going to see in the next few shlokas in the discussion, that Dhruv Maharaj was displeased as he had approached the Lord with a material desire. We'll see what that means. And so in text 28, now Vidura, who's having this conversation with Maitri Muni, he pauses the story at this point and he asks this question. My dear Brahmana, the abode of the Lord is very difficult to attain. It is sudurlabham, as stated in the shloka. It can be attained only by pure devotional service, which alone pleases the most affectionate, merciful Lord. And Dhruv Maharaj achieved this position even in one life, and he was very wise and conscientious. Why then was he not very pleased? What that part does not add up. Kindly explain, Maitrimuni, is what Vidura inquired. So in the purport to this, Prabhupada explains that Dhruva Maharaj is addressed as Arthavit. Arthavit means one who is wise, but Arthavit, Prabhupada explains, can also be understood as being a Paramahansa. Dhruv Maharaj had achieved through the process of his devotional service, through the power of chanting, the Lord's name, as instructed by his spiritual master Narad Muni, he had achieved the wise position of becoming a Paramahansa, where he could segregate what is spiritual and what is material from any situation, just as a swan segregates milk, pure milk, from water. So having achieved this position, how come Dhruv Maharaj was not pleased and was not very ecstatic? What was the reason for his lamentation? Text 29 is the response given by Maitri Muni. This is the purport I would recommend devotees to read. It's very long, and Prabhupada has elaborately discussed a lot of points in this purport. We'll take them one by one. So Prabhupada goes on to begin this purport by saying that this particular verse has been discussed by many commentators on Srimad Bhagavatam as to why Dhruv Maharaj was not fully pleased, even though he received the darshan of the Lord. What was lamenting his heart? Prabhupada explains that a pure devotee is free from material desires. He quotes Anya Vilashita Shunyam. There is no material desire that the devotee has when he is approaching the Lord. However, we know when Dhruv Maharaj began his tapasya, his meditation, he had these desires to seek revenge from Mother Suruchi and his brother. He wanted a kingdom greater than even his great grandfather, and he wanted to rule this world. So Dhruv Maharaj, once he realized that I've achieved the highest thing, and he had this clarity in his thought, clarity in his consciousness, and he looked back, he felt so disgusted with himself. He felt so miserable that what did I do? Why did I have all these things? Why was I so fallen in this world? Prabhupada describes in the purport that we know there are 3 modes of material nature that influence us: mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But when one achieves pure devotional service like Dhruv Maharaj did, we transcend those 3 modes and go beyond the modes to the Vasudev state. That is the state of Shuddha Sattva, the state beyond the modes of material miseries. But even when he reached that state, Dhruva Maharaj looked back and was lamenting because of the material desires he had harbored initially when he came in. Prabhupada goes on to describe that although Dhruva Maharaj did approach the Lord because of material reasons, because of taking shelter of his spiritual master Narad Muni, because of the power of chanting the holy name, his consciousness was purified. And the Lord did not just give him material benefits, but like he promised to him that at the end, he will be able to remember Krishna and he will be able to go back home, back to Godhead. So the Lord is not concerned with the motive, he is only concerned with the service. So being able to engage in the service of the Lord is a great blessing that we should engage ourselves also, but also have the ability to share it with other people. I remember during my college preaching days, there were so many different things we would used to do to make the program attractive for students, trying to preach, have lectures, have big programs, have kirtan, and prasad. But one thing I found that was really most effective in attracting somebody to the Lord service, bhakti, was engaging them in devotional service. Because even if they came in and offered some service during some festival, even though they had different material inclinations, maybe disinterest, maybe just doing it out of societal pressure, if we were able to engage and they would be able to participate in this in service to the Lord, whatever their intent is, Prabhupada explains, the motive is Lord will purify them because of this service. So we know where you have a wonderful Rath Yatra festival coming on. If we can potentially engage our friends and our neighbors in some kind of service, it will go a great deal in helping them in their spiritual. Prabhupada also goes on to explain that we should be very careful when we pray to the Lord. Because when we pray to the Lord, we may have material desires, and sometimes we don't even understand what we are asking, but the Lord may go on to fulfill it, just in case he did in Dhruva Maharaj's case. And once Dhruva Maharaj achieved the perfection, he became so ashamed of what I asked for and what was going to happen. Um, because he felt that having achieved, if I was truly in pure devotional service, the Lord would have just taken me back home, back to Godhead, just right there and then. But instead of doing that, because of the material desires he was sort of stuck in the material world for some more time, because of the desires he had expressed initially. Prabhupada explains in this verse there's a line which says, Naicham Mukti Pater Muktim. So the Lord is described as Muktipati, the one who can award Mukti or liberation. So Prabhupada describes that there are 5 kinds of liberation, and we've discussed that in the past. Sayujya Mukti, that's what is desired by the Mayavadis, impersonalists. Sarupya Mukti, Salokya Mukti, Sanidhya Mukti, and the last is Sashti Mukti. And Prabhupada goes on to elaborate why devotees, don't desire Sayujya Mukti. Sayujya Mukti means to merge into the impersonal Brahman, the effulgence of the Lord. And why we don't even consider that as Mukti? Because it is clearly stated in Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 10 that even if one achieves that merging into the Brahman aspect of the Lord, one is bound to fall down because one achieves his Sat and Chit uh, condition of his Atma, of his consciousness, but there is no Anand because Anand can only come when you exchange love with somebody, when you exchange devotional service with somebody. So even though they may be stated in Sat and Chit, because they don't have achieved this taste of Anand, the Brahmanand, um, they have to come down into this material world. That's so Prabhupada elaborates a little bit on Sayujya Mukti and why devotees have no regard for that particular entity. Then Prabhupada goes on to describe that actually devotees don't even desire mukti. So when Dhruva Maharaj approached the Lord for material desires, he didn't desire for mukti. But devotees don't even desire the Lord for mukti. Because the kind of mukti usually the word emphasizes is being liberated from this material world, going into the transcendental world. But Prabhupada, he gives the real mukti that the devotees desire, quoting Prabhupada in the purport, means to serve Lord and not Maya. So the real mukti that we want from this, the devotee wants, is to be able to be engaged in loving devotion of the service of the Lord each and every second, and not be engaged in Maya. Now, oftentimes, I think as devotees, sometimes we may think that, I'm not in Maya. I'm not serving Maya. I'm a devotee. I'm chanting. I'm doing this. I'm eating prasad. But still, there are moments. There are a lot of times during a day when we are engaged in a lot of different things that may not be qualified as loving devotional service. And I had this realization when I heard in a lecture from Bhakti Maharaj, where he said this powerful statement that if we are not serving Krishna, then we are serving Maya. So sometimes we feel that I'm not serving Krishna, but I'm doing other things right now. But if we are not serving Krishna, we are serving Maya. So we should strive to achieve this consciousness that whatever we do, we're able to remember Krishna in that particular act and able to dedicate that act in the service of Krishna. Then that would be real mukti, as Srila Prabhupada describes. Dhruv Maharaj, Prabhupada also mentions, also wanted to serve his senses in the beginning, and that is why he achieved the Lord to gain his favor, to fulfill his material desires. Um, but he quotes that Prabodhanand Saraswati, he mentions in the purport, that he mentions that actually achieving any kind of sense gratification in this material world is completely useless, because when one achieves the liberated state and he sees like a great demigod like Lord Brahma or Lord Indra equal to even as an ant, because both of them are engaged in sense gratification. So there is no difference that a realized soul sees in the two of them. And that is why this whole business of sense gratification was not appealing. And actually, it ashamed Dhruva Maharaj to realize that he had this desire. Um, Now, sense gratification, Prabhupada mentions, also is reflected through exhibiting dominion over material nature. So we see that the material scientist will constantly trying to exploit material nature to increase material comfort, to see how better we can enjoy sense gratification. However, a devotee, instead of exploiting material nature, instead of exploiting the energy of Krishna, we try to serve the energy of Krishna. And that is what the definition of bhakti is: loving devotional service. So after seeing the Lord, Prabhupada wanted to clarify this at the end of the purport, that Dhruva Maharaj did not have any material desire. He did achieve the Shuddha Sattva state, the Vasudev state. But reflecting back upon how he achieved the Lord's grace and why he came into the forest, Maharaj felt ashamed and felt aggrieved because of it. And that's the answer to Vidur's question by Maitreya. Next, Dhruva Maharaj in text 30, he goes on to describe that he lamented his propensity for ruling the material world. He says that even great sages like Sananda, the four Kumars, who practice Ashtanga yoga, they may take many births to achieve the Lord's mercy. Um, However, within 6 months, I was able to achieve this just because of the mercy of my guru, Narad Muni. Yet, due to my thinking differently from the Lord, I fell down from my position. Even after achieving this mercy, because I had that material inclination, the Lord decided to fulfill that, and I was not able to return home back to Godhead right away. But I would have to wait some time before I can do it. And that was Dhruva Maharaj's lamentation. In text 31, he goes on to say, "Alas, look at me, I am so unfortunate." Manda bhagyasa is what's quoted in the shloka, that his bhagya, his fortune is so, is so down that even after seeing the Lord, he was not able to achieve going back to God right away. I prayed for things which are perishable, things that belong to this material world, and that is a condition of people in this material world. Um, Again, I remember another anecdotal story that was shared by Bhakti Maharaj in one of his lectures, that there was a village lady who used to live by herself, and her means of living was collecting all these, woods and sticks that would fall in the forest. She would go into the forest, collect them, bundle them up, and tread the difficult journey back to the village and sell those things as a firewood to the village people. So like this, she was going on living her life, and she was devoted, and she did her regular sadhana and regular practice. And one day, when she was returning back to the village carrying this heavy bundle of twigs and wood pieces, that heavy bundle fell down. And as she was getting older, she was having difficulty lifting it up. So in her great misery, she called out to the Lord, "Hey Prabhu, help me. Hey Krishna, help me." And the Lord appeared. He manifested in front of him just because she cried with such intensity. And the Lord asked him that, "My dear mother, please tell me, you call for me. What can I do for you?" So what do you think that devotee, that the Mataji asked for? Uh, you know, when the Lord is standing in front of her, despite that, what she asked for the Lord was, "The Lord, dear Lord, this bundle of wood and sticks that I'm carrying is so heavy, it's fallen down. Please pick it up and put it back on my head so I can go back into the village." And that's the kind of benediction a lot of people, including myself, we ask for in this material world. Now we ask the Lord for things that are going to increase our misery and cause us to remain in this material world. And how Dhruv Maharaj is explaining things which are perishable. When in that particular situation, instead of asking for all those things which could potentially increase our material miseries, when we are standing face to face in front of Radha Madhav in the temple, we could directly ask him for pure devotional service and allowing us to engage him and remember him in each and every situation so that we are not subjected to this misery. So that was this one thing that I learned from the story. Moving on to text 32, is described that Dhruv Maharaj felt that, when he approached the forest to do this tapasya, because of all these material desires, he felt that the demigods had clouded his consciousness, and he was not able to, achieve the pure goal of pure devotional service, and his intelligence was clouded, and he went on asking for material things. At least he approached the Lord with the material things. Last shloka for the day, text 33. The Maharaj lamented that he was under the influence of the illusory energy. So he describes that Prabhupada describes in the purport that actually the duality that we see in this world of somebody being my friend, somebody being my enemy, how that Prahlad Maharaj also describes. Prabhupada uses the example of dreaming, that when somebody is dreaming, we may see a lot of different things. Oh, this is happening, that's happening. But when we wake up, we realize, oh, those were not real. So similarly, when we harbor this consciousness of duality, he's my friend, he's my enemy, he's American, he's Indian, he's North Indian, he's South Indian. If we see so many different things, external features, then we are harboring this duality, and we are not at the platform of soul realization, self-realization, but we're at the platform of bodily consciousness. And just like in a dream, it is unreal. Similarly, this duality that exists in this material world is unreal as well. But one who achieves devotional service, Prabhupada quotes from Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Kavi Hastini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshini. So the Pandit who realizes this, that we are actually not the body but the soul, he doesn't see this duality in this material world, and he sees each and every person as a wonderful part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So with this, I will end today's discussion. Please forgive me if I committed any offenses. Thank you for your association. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki.
Thank you so much, Chaitanya Prabhu. Wonderful class, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.